It's Elena back for another weekly update. This week, I don't want to make it a political post, but something that I've been seeing online, especially social media, is regarding Wade versus Roe and having those kind of votes happening in the next election cycle, basically. And it's not for me to make this political, and I try to stay out of politics everywhere I go. But one thing I wanted to add that I've been seeing, and there was a comment made that basically part of the reason certain members want to eliminate abortion is because even if the woman doesn't want the child or can't have the child, they can just put them up for adoption. And it's kind of, in a way, having the perspective of being an adoptee, it's kind of sickening to hear that some people see not wanting or not being able to support a child as just putting them up for adoption. Many women are faced with that extremely difficult decision, and it doesn't help by making it seem like it's such an easy decision. The handful of people that I know that have had to put up their kid for adoption, it's one of the most traumatizing decisions that they've ever had to make in their lives. Some beat themselves up for it. Not one single person that I have ever met that has had to do that is happy with that decision. So when I read comments and hear people talking about how, it's just so easy, and even, hey, it's not going to impact your career if you get pregnant and you can just put a kid up for adoption. It's not necessarily all about your career. The topic at hand is not about the life that you can't have because you're having a child. It's part of it, but that is not the main subject at hand either. Yes, it's a life and how you're gonna provide that life, and everyone has their decisions and choices of life and abortions. It's not for me to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. But what I have been seeing is on that entire topic and the divide in the opinions, one thing that really stuck out was how we should not have an abortion option because adoption is a choice and an easier choice. And sure, to some people, yeah, that is. But don't think that adoption is just a very easy choice between picking out what you want for breakfast, cereal or oatmeal. Like it just, the way that they make adoption seem to be of, it's easy to put up a kid for adoption, it's easy for that kid to get adopted, it's easy for their parents to get a kid, except for behind the scenes, the trauma that the parent has to face, both sides, right, man and woman, the child itself, the trauma they go through, and then even the parents that are trying to adopt, right? So whether it's in the US and going through all the leaps, and some kids never getting adopted, so they're in the foster care system for years and years and years, and that in itself is traumatizing for them as well. To even adoptive parents sometimes don't even get, especially foster, don't get the support that they actually need from the system, right? It's expensive, obviously, to have a child, and it's expensive to go through a adoption process. And so there's a lot of factors into adoption that people just kind of throw in the wayside to meet a certain agenda. And again, I'm going to reiterate, this is not a political post. I'm not here to take sides. I actually don't have one way or another. I think everyone has their own choice. It's not for me to go on one side or the other, because it's not me in the situation at that time, right? I'm in a certain situation of being an adoptee, absolutely. My mom obviously didn't abort me. So I can see both sides, but as I talked in last video and audio, she was mentally incapable of taking care of me. So, and back in the day when I was born, I don't think that was even an option, an abortion, but different country rules as well, so you have to factor that in. But yeah, so I see both sides, right? And everyone has their own opinions. I'm not here to sway them. However, it's just interesting from reading and seeing some of the social media posts and the interviews, how some people see adoption as this super easy process and that no one's impacted because the child was stillborn. And when you sit down and really think about what the adoption process is and how it is on the mental state for the parent releasing the child itself, and then the adoptive parents, there's a pretty good in-depth process, right? So people are impacted, and obviously on the other spectrum too, certain people are impacted as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there for this week. This topic has been circulating quite often, especially on social media, especially as we get closer to certain elections. The Roe versus Wade has been around for a while. It's been flip-flopping as well for the different decisions. So I thought it was just interesting to see that again and to hear what certain feedback people have. And again, it's totally whatever your opinion is. I just wanted to talk about the aspect of how adoption has impacts. And I've talked about it in prior stories as well, that people think of adoption as this beautiful thing, which it can be, and there are no problems. The child gets picked up from the orphanage or the foster care system. They get picked up by the parents and new parents, and then the parents just love them, and it's just this magical thing. And no one really stops and probably thinks, and that's okay because they don't know, to understand what's happening in between, right? That child is coming into a whole new life, really, and trying to adapt to parents that have their own way of thinking, of parenting, and that child's personality may not fit into it. It's kind of like in a smaller fashion of coming into a whole new company that you probably don't even do that kind of work and figuring it out day one. Like saying, hey, you've never done this job, but I need you to go run this project in this technology, but I know that you don't know anything about it, but go make it happen in a couple months. And you're like, wait, what? I just got here. Like, wait, hold on. But I need to be executing like I've been here for 10 years. So that's just a life example scenario of some of the ways that child's brain is going through when they're into a whole new family system, and that family thinks, oh, it's just, you're showing up, you should be thankful, here you are, like, we're here, and appreciate us. And there's just more to it than that. And so be mindful for adoptees. Another aspect that I've been seeing on social media as I keep rolling these out is people who aren't adopted or know many people who are adopted, they ask a lot of questions, which is great, but sometimes they start interjecting like their opinion as if they know what that person's going through or has gone through. And what I've been seeing and asking people when I see these interactions is like, what would you like for them to tell you or ask you? And they're like, sometimes it's just listen. Don't listen to respond. Listen to just listen and understand. And even if you don't understand, we don't always need a response. And that's powerful because sometimes, a lot of times as adoptees, we understand you are not in that situation. And it's not that we need a response. Sometimes we just need to vent and get it out, to not keep suppressing what it is that we're thinking or feeling, but also not needing someone that doesn't know the situation responding sometimes in they're not thinking through what they're responding with. And that's just unfortunate, right? It's better to just say, look, it's kind of like the way I communicate with people who have lost parents or anyone who have lost somebody to death. I will sit down and say, look, I'm sorry you're going through this. I don't know the right things to say, but I'm here for you and I'll listen. And I say it right off the bat because I want them to know that I don't have the things to say to make them feel better. I don't. I haven't lost from death, at least. I've lost through other ways. Someone of recent in my family, I haven't lost to death, right? So I don't know, and everyone treats it differently as well. I don't know what you need from me, but I'm here to listen and let me know what it is that you need. I'm not gonna sit there and just throw things out thinking that I know what they need. And it's the same way for communicating with adoptees. Don't pretend like you know what it's like. Just don't do that. It's okay to ask questions, but don't try to make it seem like you know, especially if you've never been an adoptee or know of adoptees or have adopted. You don't know what it's like, and that's okay. That's totally fine. But don't try to fix anything without first listening and then just really trying to understand what's going on. So I thought that was very interesting too, to see through the social media and interviews, comments of the political aspect of what I talked about earlier, and then the responses of adoptees and how they feel and how they're perceiving this information on the social media platforms and through interviews and the different newscasts as well. So it's very interesting time, and it's kind of funny timing that I started this effort and also this is going on. So I wanted to bring this up for this week at least, to maybe help put some perspective that adoption is not a cakewalk for any party involved. Like I mentioned earlier, the parent having to give up the child itself goes through trauma, and then the adoptive parents also go through, I'm sure, an aspect of trauma too, right? So many parties involved are traumatized as well. So adoption is not this easy concept that people want to make it perceived as out in the world right now. So I hope this is helpful. My intent is to not make it political, and I hope I didn't make it political, and if I did, it is what it is. But like I mentioned earlier in the video, I try to stay away from politics and opinions because everyone has a choice of whatever their beliefs are. I'm not here to sway it one way or another. I'm just trying to bring in a portion of, from the adoptive perspective, how one of the topics out there and what the perception is of it, and hopefully bring more light to it and reality of what it's more like. So that was my intent, and hopefully not too many people are hurt by it or think it's too political, but if it is, I apologize. But it was needed for the message that I wanted to bring light to. So I appreciate you watching. If you haven't bought my book, it's still on Amazon, also on my website, elenalee.net. On Amazon, it's Coming to America, an adoption story. Christmas is coming up. I think it would be a fantastic gift. The book is geared for about 5+ years old, great illustrations, and easy to read. Even for my friends who hate to read, I joke around that it's got pictures and only a couple of sentences, so I think it's doable to read. So hopefully you go out and buy. If not, no worries. Feel free to leave a comment. And yeah, I appreciate those who keep reading my posts and providing comments on any platform. If you have feedback or any topic you want me to discuss, definitely reach out to me on social media, and I'll see what I can do. And I appreciate everyone watching and listening. So thanks, and have a great rest of your week.